Hello, Trail Seeker, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Learn True Health podcast. I took a little bit of a break. Sorry for not getting an episode out in the last week. My husband and I just celebrated our 12th year anniversary, and so a friend let us come up to her cabin in the middle of the woods, 5 hours away from Seattle in the Okanagan Valley, 45 minutes away from the nearest town or grocery store. We were completely isolated, there was no cell service, and it was beautiful and pristine. Our son caught bugs the entire time and played in nature, and we swam, and we walked in the forest, and we just sat in the sun and put our feet on the ground and took long, slow, deep breaths, soaked in all the nature. And I definitely encourage you to get out in nature as much as you can, as often as you can. Even if you live in the city, find some clean, pesticide-free grass. And just go lie down in it. Feel the earth rotating around this crazy universe. That ability to ground yourself is so healing. Now, this interview that you're listening to today is phenomenal. I love this man's story, and this is going to be a great episode to share with your husband or your brother, or I just think the men that are at the point where they're sick of being sick. This is going to be a great interview to listen to. The man that you're about to hear, he was the American cowboy, growing up kind of in ranch country, eating nothing but beef, and he had a lot of health problems that men sweep under the rug, and he just got sick of being sick, and he was able to, through his journey and his story he's going to share, it's a wonderful story, he discovers how to heal his body, and he teaches how you can do the same, how you can nourish your body in a way that everything comes back into balance. Now, as you're listening to Tim James share his story, he also shares his website, chemicalfreebody.com, and he has invented a few supplements that are whole food supplements. I am very picky when it comes to supplements, but his green powder that you just turn into a drink is so delicious, and really my body buzzes when I drink it. After this interview, I went and I bought some, and I am loving it. I put it in my smoothie every day. Sometimes I just put it in a glass of water and drink it. What I notice is that it almost like could replace a coffee or tea. It gives me energy, but not jitters. It's safe for children, and it is a ton of raw food extracts from different superfoods, and it actually tastes good. So if you're looking to detox, you're looking to become more alkaline, and also I tested my alkaline levels, and this green juice this powder that he sells that is extracts from raw organic superfoods, it is so delicious, and it also balances pH. So I did the test before and after drinking it, and I saw my pH come back into alkalinity, and I thought that was very cool. My husband's doing a fast right now, and he is drinking this stuff every day, because fasting, you definitely stir up toxins. And so if you've been listening for any length of time, you know that I'm really into supporting the body and removing heavy metals and detoxing and supporting all the organs of the body in detoxing and becoming as healthy as possible. So if you want to give this a try, which I highly recommend you do, and basically it's great to get for your husband if you're helping the men in your life who are just sort of coming into wanting to become healthier, but maybe they don't have the time or wherewithal to make a special salad and make a special, vegetable smoothie, and you just want to give them something really fast. That's what Tim James created. He's very particular, very picky about the ingredients that he puts into his stuff, so that the quality is there. He formulated them for his own health, for him and for his family. So I like that he's never going to compromise on the ingredients. It's chemicalfreebody.com, and then use the coupon code LTH for 5% off. His margins are so slim when it comes to supplements as it is, so he gave us a discount, and I thought that was really nice of him. So chemicalfreebody.com, LTH for the coupon code. Be sure to use that, which will give you, just a little bit of a discount. That helps to cover shipping. And he recommends doing the Total Energy and Detox bundle. I grabbed the green drink to start, and I love it. And I'm gonna definitely dive in and try his other supplements, his bundle next, the Total Energy and Detox bundle. And he also highly recommends doing his protocol while you do any form of fasting, cleansing, or detoxing, because it really helps so that you don't have any flu-like symptoms or detox symptoms or any downtime when you're fasting or detoxing. So enjoy today's interview. Make sure you go to chemicalfreebody.com, check out his videos, and do the coupon code LTH. Thank you so much for being a listener. Thank you so much for sharing this episode with those you love. Let's help all the people we love, the men and the women in our lives, to learn true health. Welcome to the Learn True Health podcast. I'm your host, Ashley James. This is episode 442. I am so excited for today's guest. We have Tim James on. He's the founder of chemicalfreebody.com. Tim James, of no relation. We just coincidentally both have the same last name. I'm really excited for the mission that you're on. In my own quest for health, I found that by cutting out chemicals and pesticides, my health drastically improved. And so I love what you're doing. And also when I'm exposed to certain chemicals, I notice I really, really feel it. It's pretty amazing how so many people are walking around with sluggish livers full of chemicals and not knowing that there's a better way. There's a way that you can just hugely improve your overall health and well-being, the well-being of our children, the well-being at any age, by eliminating chemicals and toxins as much as we can from our food and our water and our air. Tim, welcome to the show.
Ashley, thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be here and share.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you have an amazing story, so let's dive right in. What happened in your life? How young were you when you first started having health problems, and what happened that led you to discover that chemicals were the cause of your problems?
Well, I can take it back a little further, just so people understand my background. I grew up in Eastern Oregon on a cattle and hay farm. We had Hereford cattle, and between me and my neighbors, we had horses and chickens and ducks, and it was just all there, goats and everything. And I grew up hunting and fishing a lot, so meat was a huge part of my lifestyle. Played baseball at a high level, and then at age 37, that's when the wheels were really falling off for me. I'd gained 38 pounds, even though I still in my mind thought I was an athlete. Even though I had hardly any energy to get up, I'd only do it to walk the dogs. I was a financial advisor at the time, getting up early, long days, lots of traveling, high stress. And then I had skin issues on my elbows, like eczema, and it would bleed and crack, and I had to start wearing black shirts because the white ones would, I'd bleed on people's couches on Super Bowl parties and stuff like that. It was embarrassing. And it didn't look good, right? So I had this big belly, my elbows were bleeding, my knee finally got eczema too. It was cracking and bleeding. And then I had acid indigestion really bad. I was Tums and Rolaids all the time. Doctor wanted me to go into Prilosec. I didn't want to do that. And then finally, it got really bad. I started bleeding rectally. And I didn't tell anybody about this for almost 2 years.
Oh,
and
geez.
I never did tell a doctor or nobody. I'm just like, hopefully that goes away. And how stupid is that, right? So it was just like that guy mentality, like, it's fine, it'll get better. It's like just not even a pause, just like, I hope that goes away. Back to work, because it really wasn't a problem, because I wasn't stopped, completely. I just kept going. And, I'm raising the kids, and I got a mortgage payment, so I'm moving, right? And finally, it was on a vacation. We were in northern Peru, right below Tumbes, which is in Ecuador, and I had to get life flighted to basically get an emergency surgery in Lima. And that's when that mask went over my face. That's when I knew my life was out of control, but I still didn't know what the hell to do. I didn't know what I was doing with health. Even though I thought I was healthy, I was eating like trying to do 5 meals a day and eat more protein. Give me a chicken teriyaki bowl and give me extra chicken. And I thought, drinking my milk for my bones and the meat for my protein, all that stuff. But I was a mess. And a friend of mine got diagnosed with chronic lymphocytic leukemia, which is a supposedly rare, supposedly incurable blood cancer. And he's like, dude, I can't die. He's like, I have to live because our sons played together. So he's like, I'm going to go to this place in Florida called the Hippocrates Health Institute. I don't know. Have you heard of those people at all?
I have not.
Okay. So they're one of the oldest alternative health institutes in the world. And he says, I want you to go with me and support me. I'm going to try to heal naturally. Well, I'm thinking, this ain't going to work. I mean, I'm going to support you. I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm all in. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, he's dead. My grandma died of brain cancer. My aunt died of skin cancer. We just actually lost a guy on my baseball team that we played in the adult men's World Series in Phoenix on the super nice spring training fields. And Calais died of cancer. He had stomach cancer, and he went through chemo and surgery and all that stuff. And he died like 80 pounds under his weight. So we had already been through that. Calais didn't have any insurance, but he left 3 little boys behind at ages 6 to 17. So we did this fundraiser. It was terrible. It was like a whole bunch of these really strong, tough men on this baseball team. We're all at his funeral just crying our faces off. And I'll never I'll never forget. He came for his last baseball game. He was too proud to run out to center field. He said, hey guys, because he couldn't run. He's just like, I don't have the energy to run back and forth to my position. I'm sure as hell not going to walk. Can I pitch? Because I can just kind of jog out to the mound. And I'm thinking pitching's going to take way more energy, dude, but whatever. So he's pitching, and around the 4th or 5th inning, he comes in on the bench, and he's sitting there on my left, and my buddy Jason's on his left. And me and Jason are looking at Clay, and he's sitting there spitting up blood. And Jason's like, man, what the hell are you doing out here? And he's like, look, dude, he's like, I love baseball. And if I'm going to go out, I'm going to go out doing what I love. So I was like, okay, man. What do you say to that? You just, okay, whatever you want to do. So I watched a guy my age. Now I'm starting to freak out because, I'm bleeding rectally. I have all these problems. I'm looking at this guy. He's healthier than all of us, and he's dying of cancer. And then my buddy Charles at age 43, he gets it, and I'm freaking out. But I still don't know what's going on. So anyway, long story short, we fly to Hippocrates January 1st, 2011.
This
and
is
on
you
the plane,
and Clay? You and Clay?
No, Clay passed away.
Okay, so Clay passed away. When he was spitting up blood at the baseball diamond, did you have any light bulbs going off in your head? Like, wow, I was bleeding rectally for years and...
No, I was fear. I was just in fear mode, but I didn't know what to do. I just still didn't know what to do. It wasn't until Charles said, hey, we got to go to this institute. Now we're on the plane flight there because he's got this blood cancer. And he's like, oh, Tim, by the way, when we get there, there's no meat, no dairy, no salt, no sugar, nothing's cooked. And I'm like, what? I'm like, I'm literally freaked out. And I'm like, you have to understand, like, hunting and fishing was my life. Like, it was like every year I worked so hard so I could get another extra week off to hunt and fish. All my thousands of dollars of hunting and fishing equipment. Our motto was if it flies, it dies. If it's brown, it's down. Just to give you an idea. I mean, I'm redneck, okay, Eastern Oregon farm boy. And it was fun. We had a lot of fun doing that stuff. But so I'm freaked out. And if it wasn't for Charles and him having cancer, there's no way I would have set foot into that place. Because it was like, we made fun of vegetarians. And this place was like plant-based vegans. There was no even eggs or dairy, which didn't make sense. Because I'm like, you have strong bones. So anyway, I'm freaked out, but I'm like, look, Tim, put your stuff aside. They probably got salads. Charles has got cancer. Just focus on him. So I went there with a notepad, and I'm running around trying to disprove this place and talking to all these people and trying to gather information for my friend because I really want him to heal, but I didn't think it was possible. Well, it was amazing what happened. So they put us on purified water. They put us on these green juices, all sprouted nuts, seeds, grains, beans, broccoli sprouts, sunflower sprouts, pea sprouts, all this stuff, sprouts in the juice even. And what you do is you go through what's called a healing crisis. Now, the first takes about 3, 4, 5 days for most people. It's like doing surgery without a knife. And all this stuff starts coming out of you. So they teach you, the very first class is on internal awareness. And they teach you from the time you eat something or drink something, from it enters your mouth until it exits, what goes on. And they just kind of break it down. They make it simple. I'm like, oh my God, where's this information? Now, that first class, they're trying to teach you about getting a colon hydrotherapy or colonic. Have you ever heard of those?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then I'm elbowing Charles going, "Hey man, you got me to come here to help you, but there ain't no way I'm doing that deal." Like, so for those of you listening that aren't aware of that, you just sit on a tube rectally and water basically goes in and out and they clean you out gently with water. That's a colonic or colon hydrotherapy session. So, and he said that most people are carrying around about 6 to 12 pounds of impacted fecal material and mucoid plaques lining the small and large intestine. And you want to get that stuff out. Now, the record at the Institute, some lady did a colon hydrotherapy session and she dropped like 29 pounds of impacted fecal material.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what? And I was the first person to sign up on that thing. I'm like, I got to clean that stuff out. Because, I got this blood deal going on, right? They weigh me. I do the deal for an hour. I come back. I'm 10 pounds lighter. So just like Dr. Scott said, he goes, Tim, you got 10 pounds of crap in a 5-pound bag and we got to clean it up. So this is even before nutrition. What you brought up even earlier was about the chemicals and the toxins. Well, the pathway of elimination of the digestive tract is the first place to get cleaned up because it's the epicenter. It's the driving engine of your life. It's where all the nutrients flow and everything. So they taught us all that. I did that thing. I started feeling better. Day one, my acid indigestion was gone. The blood had stopped that week.
When you say the blood, you mean rectal bleeding?
Yes.
Not the blood coming from your knees or your elbows.
No, that was still there. That was still going on. So we do this. And so I had headaches. I had night sweats. I wasn't feeling good. I was irritable during that first 4 days. And this is what they call healing crisis or doing surgery without a knife. So your body is basically changing from an acid-based organism because of the environment it was in. Everything I was eating was acid. I didn't know meat was acid. I didn't know coffee was acid. I didn't think about it. I was drinking 2 big coffees a day. I was dairy's acid, ice cream's acid, pasta's acid. Most cooked foods are acid. I was pouring acid into my body. I mean, I'd love picking apples and stuff like that and in nature and vegetables. I love that stuff, but it was out of ratio basically. So they put me on all this alkaline diet. And what happens is you change the internal terrain of the body. Mm-hmm. And that's when the harmful organisms leave. They pack their bags because harmful organisms like viruses, bacteria, mold, yeast, fungus, and parasites and cancer, they love a low oxygen, highly acidic environment. And that's the environment that I had created for them. So those little buggers were growing and proliferating and eating my food and drinking my drinks and urinating and defecating in me. And I had a buildup of them. So we swashed out and cleaned out my digestive tract. And I started flooding my body and my cells, my blood, my lymphatic system with all this purified water and green juices. And the body started removing all this stuff. Well, it got, thank God it only lasted 4 or 5 days. And then I woke up the next day and I felt like I was 19 again. I looked at Charles and I said, dude, you're going to live. I said, I've interviewed all these people around here. There's a whole bunch of people that have already healed themselves of cancer. They're back now, or they're bringing a friend with cancer and they're helping people. I'm like, dude, this is the fountain of youth that we found. I'm like, this is what everybody's looking for. I'm like, I feel great, dude. How do you feel? He's like, I feel awesome. I said, awesome, dude. I'm going to go back. I'm going to do this whole plant-based thing with you, except I'm going to keep bacon. I'll do that. So, because I figured I could make it work without, and then.
So you're going to eat a whole food plant-based diet plus bacon.
With bacon. I was going to keep that. It was hard to give up, So I read this book called The China Study by Dr. T. Colin Campbell on the plane flight back. And that changed my mind because there was they dissected the hearts of like 300 young soldiers in their early 20s that came back from the Korean War. And they found like 76.3% of them had severe onset of heart disease already in their early 20s from the standard American diet. I'm like, oh my God, I have heart disease. Not only do I got my elbows are bleeding, I'm bleeding rectally, but I have heart disease. Nobody eats more meat than me, and it's the animal fat that's causing the problem. So that healing crisis really woke me up to like how bad it was. And I didn't have it as bad as some people. Some people had rashes breaking out all over their arms, their face, all over their bodies as the body was pushing and expelling out toxins and chemicals and pollutants and harmful organisms. We saw parasites crawling out of people's pores. One lady had a parasite crawling out of her eye.
Oh my gosh.
Many people, when you're doing enemas and wheatgrass implants rectally, which that's what they do at that place, parasites will come out in your stools, not just the big long ones, but your stool can be covered with like a white fuzzy stuff. All these little white ones will come out. And then there's also microscopic ones that you can't see, that you have parasites in your blood and stuff. So again, it was a pretty awesome thing to get all that stuff out. And, everybody on graduation day says the same thing. I feel 20 years younger. I feel 30 years younger. I'm off my medications. Blah, 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 blah. My elbows was hurting for 20. I can move my elbow. I can move my knee. On and on, these people were just raving about how they were feeling. So we went back home. We got serious. We implemented the lifestyle. And in 2.5 years, my friend Charles heals himself of this so-called incurable cancer. And he's alive today. He got to see his son graduate high school, graduate college. He picked up a guitar, started a band. He's living his life. He went from cancer and bankruptcy to thriving business and living his highest excitement. And I just went crazy with it and finally walked away from the financial services industry to tell more people about it.
I love it. My husband used to say, because he was just like you, he used to say, I eat vegans daily, because he would eat the cow. Cow's a vegan. But he for many years would only eat beef every day, or bacon and beef and nothing else. And then one day he woke up 2 years, is it 2 or 3 years ago? It's been a few years. He woke up and he just said to me, I'm never eating meat again. I just woke up and he became whole food plant-based overnight. It just something clicked in him. Probably after one of my interviews with Robin Openshaw, and he heard about the frequency of meat and how it lowers the frequency in the body to we're practically dead. And he just, something in him just went, that's it. I'm never eating meat again. And within days of eating just whole food plant-based, and you got to get, like, I never was able to get vegetables into him. And all of a sudden he's eating only vegetables. And he said to me about 5 days in, he turns to me and he says, if you told me that this food would taste this good, I would have given up meat years ago. This tastes better. This tastes amazing. He's always impressed with how great vegetables can taste in comparison to meat. But our brain is hijacked by fatty foods, because that's a great book to read is The Pleasure Trap by Dr. Goldhammer and Dr. Lyle. I've had Dr. Goldhammer on the show and he explains it. That's episode 230. So listeners can go back and check that out. But that are part of our survival mechanism is to seek out foods that are highly pleasurable in that they're salty, sugary, and fatty, because those help us gain weight and survive famines. Well, now we don't want to gain weight to survive a famine because those foods are highly readily available, whereas they were very hard to find, and it took a lot of energy expenditure in order to secure those foods, even 200 years ago. But now you don't even have to expend any energy. You could just type in Amazon and they can deliver all those highly fatty foods to you. And so looking now, we see that 70% of Americans are obese or are pre-diabetic. We're heading very quickly in the wrong direction. Now, you had mentioned the China study. One thing that Dr. Cadwell Esselstyn talks about in Forks Over Knives, I've had him on the show, also a really great interview. But Cadwell Esselstyn talks about how during the Nazi occupation of one of the Norwegian countries, it was between 1939 and 1945, the Germans who were occupying the Norwegian countries, they took over all of the food supply and they took over all of the meat, so only the Norwegians could eat potatoes and grains and vegetables, and they were not given any meat to eat. And you'd think that heart attacks would have increased because of the stress levels of being occupied in a Nazi-occupied country. But in fact, they completely plummeted. And in that population, they saw that there were the mortality rates for heart disease just completely fell to almost zero. And then when they were liberated and they got to eat meat again, the heart attack rates went up. And that to me shocked me, because I always thought that stress obviously is a toxin to the body for many reasons. You'd think that stress would have somehow made the heart attacks worse, but no, just cutting out meat significantly decreased heart attacks. And that really, really surprised me. And also, of course, increasing their vegetable intake and their fiber intake would then also play a role in their health. So you going to this center, coming back, what happened the first day? So the plane lands, you get home, you've read the China study, you've interviewed a bunch of people who are on a raw whole foods diet, your rectal bleeding has stopped, you feel like you're 19 again. What was the first day like at home? How did you wrap your brain around making these changes now that you're back in your old routine?
Well, I already knew the changes were going to have to take place before I left. Because on Thursday, before I left on Saturday, I was like, oh, I don't have a juicer at home. Oh, I don't have all these things. So I went to the store at Hippocrates Health Institute and I said, what do I need to get this lifestyle at my house? And she's like, do you have a juicer? I'm like, no. She's like, I said, which one? That one. Okay, I'll take it. What else do I need? Are you growing sprouts? I'm like, no. I said, but I grew up on a farm and we had a garden. I said, I can grow anything. I'll figure it out. She's like, well, you need wheatgrass, sunflower, and pea sprouts to start. I said, okay, I'll take some of those. And then I just ordered a bunch of stuff. I ordered like $1,100 worth of stuff. I called my wife up and I was like, hey, there's a package on the way, so look out for it because it's got some stuff in there. And she's like, how much did you spend? I was like, I don't want to say. It's like, no, it's like $1,100. And she's like, what? What do you spend $1,100 for? I was like, look, I'm changing my life. Charles is going to heal the cancer. We're going to do this. I got to go, you know. So I ordered that stuff and I just, I got my seeds out. I started soaking my seeds. I went to the store. I started buying lots of produce, celery and cucumbers for juicing. And to be honest, I'm like, I didn't know what the hell to eat for a while, So I basically created these things that are now, we're putting a recipe book together. I call them because I actually became a raw living food chef, believe it or not, from redneck, cowboy type, person, farmer. My buddy was a cowboy. I really wasn't, but I have a cowboy hat, but a real one. But, I created these little tacos. So I would take like a lettuce leaf, I would take hummus, and I would just put some cumin and coriander in it to get kind of that Mexican flavor, a little bit of chili powder, and then mix that up. Oh, I started sprouting lentils, mung beans, and fenugreek, red, green, and French lentils. They only take 2.5 days and they're ready to eat, and you can do it on your countertop in a glass jar, right? It's easy. And I would throw those in the hummus and mix it up, and then just plop that on the lettuce, cut some sprouts, throw them on top of that, or vegetables, or maybe some avocado. Squeeze some lemon or lime on it and put some lots of paprika on it so it looked like meat, and then I'd eat it. And that's how I pretty much ate that for almost 8-9 months because I didn't know what else to do. Then I found another restaurant that made these living food wraps in town. And once a week I'd go over and buy those on my way to the Rotary Club and eat half and eat the other half for dinner. So I mixed it up a little bit. But that's about 9 months into it. I'm like, I need some recipes. But I was committed because I told Charles, I said, look, dude, I'm going to do this with you. I will follow this protocol. I even started growing the sprouts for him too. So I was growing them for me and him, and he'd come over and pick them up, or I'd drop them off at his house because he was really busy with trying to, he's reeling from a bankruptcy type thing with his businesses and trying to keep the lights on. So I did that for him and trying to keep his stress down and just deliver these beautiful trays of sprouts to him. And that's how we started doing it. And then one of my buddies actually came over and he's like, wow, what's all these plants you got growing over here? And I said, oh, they're sprouts. And he's like, what's that for? And I'm like, well, it's part of this protocol, and sprouts are living foods, and they're like 30 to 50 times more nutritious than fresh picked vegetables out of your garden if you ate them on the spot. He's like, wow, that sounds pretty cool. Hey, will you grow that for me? And I'm like, no way, man. It's like, it's a lot of work. Like, just grow it yourself. I'll show you how to do it. He's like, nah, but if you grow it for me, I'll do it. So he talks me into it. The next day he brings a friend over. I give the same spiel, and he wants me to grow for him. And before too long, between him and Eric, they keep sending people over, and I keep randomly getting home from work, and I got to give these talks. And then finally I told my wife, it interrupted a date night. We're getting ready to go do something. This lady showed up with cancer, and I'm just like, sorry, I have to help her. So I do the spiel, blah, 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 I'm doing all this stuff. And before too long, we started teaching classes regularly, living food juicing classes on Tuesday nights. Those filled up quickly. Then it was Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Then I started speaking at schools and grocery stores and hospitals, and anybody I'd go to an apartment complex and speak at the little places that they have there where people can meet and gather, and just anywhere I just get the message out. I did this for 5 years. And I was still a financial advisor. I wasn't getting paid. I was actually paying people to come over and have dinner with me. I figured out I spent about $1,100 a month on food extra to feed people in these classes. And it really wasn't, and think about it, I was feeding a lot of people. We'd have anywhere from 1 to 13 people, probably on average about 6 to 8 people per class was coming. And, we're talking over 4,000 people in 5.5 years coming to my house. So I got a lot of experience sharing this message with people. I was just so passionate about it because in a little over 2 years, again, my buddy healed himself of cancer. I have first person experience on this right in front of my face. So he ain't BSing me. It's right there. I healed myself within 60 days. The weight was gone. I could feel my ribs again. The eczema was gone. I had another skin issue on my shoulder that disappeared. And 8 months later, the big, huge patch of eczema was completely cleaned up on my knee too. I completely healed myself, and I've stayed that way now and been able to maintain it for 10 years. And I just keep getting healthier every year. And I'm 47 today, and nobody believes me. I'm like, I'll be in conversations and, oh, where are your kids? Oh yeah, my guy, sophomore at University of Oregon and a junior at Tualatin High School. And they're like, what? Wait a minute, how old are you? It blows my. I'm like those people that worked at the Institute now. Because the people that worked there that were on that lifestyle, they look 10, 15, 20 years younger than people their age. And it blew me away.
Mm-hmm.
So I made a decision back then because they said that in 7 years, you can replicate completely new you. Every cell, if we took every cell out of your body and put it in a catalog and categorized it, and come back in 7 years, completely new you, new cells.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes, you have a choice. You can and I thought about that. I'm like, well, I can either keep doing what I'm doing and probably have a heart disease and cancer, and who knows what's going to happen with me, or I could change, do what these people are doing, and build a new Tim. And 7 years later, there was a new Tim. And I keep rebuilding new Tim all the time and finding ways to be healthier and younger and fitter and make it simpler and easier for people so they can cut through all the minutia online, because there's so many people, saying all these things that work and stuff like that. But in reality, they do a little bit, but they really don't here. And, it's confusing. The problem is the standard American diet, Ashley, is so bad that if you make any changes, you're going to see some improvement. But I'm looking for optimal performance. Like,
Yes.
what really works.
Mm-hmm.
And the cool thing is most of these things are really simple, and it really boils down to what you said earlier, which is getting the toxins out. So our main job over here is not, even though I'm considered a nutritionist now, and I don't have a degree in it, but, I've had tons of nutritionists and dietitians come to my classes, and, I actually had one crying and she'd been a nutritionist for 30 years. I said, what's going on? She's like, everything that you said tonight resonated with me so well. It just makes common sense. She's like, everything I've been telling my clients is mostly wrong. How am I going to face them? I said, well, just tell them the truth and just say you've discovered something new and you're going to do that. And just, you want to help them, right? Yeah. I said, well, go help them. Look at me. I mean, I was a mess for 37 years. I got some new information. I'm flipping the coin. I'm going down that path 100%. Right. So she started going down that path.
It's so true. It's so true. We have to, sometimes eat a little bit of humble pie, put our ego aside. And when we find new information, like, we just have to open your mind so much your brain could fall out, and be ready to receive new information that could help you change your life, and let go of the egoic belief system that you were raised with around food. People believe that they have to eat bacon or eggs or dairy because we've been taught since a very young age that those are healthy things. One thing that really surprises me is cereal, for example. I go to health food stores. We have local health foods, local co-ops here in and around Seattle, and I go to Whole Foods. And whenever I'm in a different city, I go to a health food store. But all cereal, it's very, very hard to find cereal that doesn't have sugar in it. I mean, just maybe a whole grain cereal. It's very difficult to find. There are a few, but most cereals, and I'm so surprised because when I was a kid, there were more cereals that didn't have sugar, like Rice Krispies didn't have sugar in it. There were so many cereals that you could find that didn't have. Now, of course, there were sugary cereals back in the 80s, but I'm just noticing that even in health food stores, the second ingredient, or sometimes the first ingredient, is sugar. And that blows my mind. Now, of course, I don't buy cereal. I'm just using that as an example of how food has changed in the last 30, 40 years. Since we were children, we're kind of eating. I think a lot of people are eating like, even at an unconscious level, how they were raised to eat, how their grandparents told them what was healthy or their parents told them what was healthy. And so we developed belief systems. My mom was afraid of carbohydrates. So she would get very angry at me if I was a child and I was eating. I remember at a restaurant, I ordered the fish and the rice because I thought that, and with a side of vegetables, I thought that was a healthy choice to make. And my mom started literally yelling at me. Everyone in the restaurant was looking because she was so angry that I ordered rice, because in her mind, rice was very unhealthy for you, and any carbohydrate was very unhealthy for you. And so I had these unconscious beliefs about food and my food choices that led me down a very unhealthy path. And then I had to re-examine, like, why do I think this is a good food or a bad food, or why do I believe I can't live without cheese, or I can't live without eggs or dairy, or I can't live without meat? Like, why do I believe that? And and I really needed to wipe the slate clean of my own belief system and look at what is the most healing thing I can do for my body. What's my body going to resonate with? And so trying out the whole food plant-based diet, I was shocked to I remember my first meal without meat, because I had never in my entire life had a meal without meat. And I'd had lots of meals with just meat and no vegetables. But I'd never had a non-meat meal. And that, because it wasn't a meal in my mind. You had to have meat in a meal. And I remember my first meal, and at the end of it, I was shocked because I thought I was going to feel weak. I was going to feel tired. I was going to feel still hungry. I really assumed that there was the meat that filled me up and gave me energy. And it was the opposite. The more I went whole food plant based and incorporated more complex carbohydrates from potatoes, for example, and sprouts. I love sprouting too. But the more I incorporated vegetables, both raw and cooked, I noticed I had more and more energy. And so I love that if we examine our own belief system and we are able to try on things that we said to ourselves, I'd never do that. Like if we talked to you at 18, you would have been like, no freaking way I'm going to eat that stuff that you're eating now, right? So we have to be willing to make these changes and then notice what happens in our body. Now, you mentioned you spent $1,100, and to a lot of people, that would be enough of a barrier to not even listen any further. Oh, I couldn't do that. I can't afford that. I guess this isn't for me. And I want to tell people that you don't have to spend $1,100 to get a juicer and get all this stuff going. I know you did, Tim. You did, and you probably bought like the best of the best. I've actually twice bought juicers that were worth hundreds of dollars for $12 at a local thrift store. So you can go to your thrift stores, you can go to Facebook Marketplace or OfferUp, or even the Buy Nothing. There's Buy Nothing local groups on Facebook, and seek out a juicer. It doesn't have to be the best of the best, but just get started. You could probably find someone who has an extra. I own 5 juicers. You could probably find someone who has an extra juicer that would be willing to lend it to you or sell it to you at a really cheap price. So we don't let money be a barrier to your health. Same with sprouting. Sprouting is so incredibly affordable. I buy my lentils organic, of course, but in bulk, and then I just actually use a colander. So I soak them for 24 hours, and then I put them in a colander, and I put them in a dark, warm place, and then twice a day, in the morning and at night, I rinse them off and I sort of shake them up. And for me, I like eating them at about day 4, day 5, because I like them when they're little bit less. I don't know, they're grown more and they're a little less crunchy. But that's just my personal preference. So there's many ways, and I've only done lentil sprouts. So I'd be really excited to try like the pea sprouts and the mung bean sprouts and the other sprouts that you mentioned. That sounds delicious. So your whole thing is living foods as much as possible. But we can do it on a budget for those who have a budget they need to adhere to.
Yeah, can I talk about that?
Yeah,
How
absolutely.
you can
I want you to.
save money, and save your life at the same time eating this way. So it doesn't have to be expensive. So yeah, I bought a $600 juicer. I got after it, and I did it. I made the juice twice a day, and it can become expensive. So I was teaching people what I learned. Okay, I went to this place, was juicing twice a day, doing this, eating that, and it worked. So I brought it home and I recreated it. Most people can't do it in their busy schedules. First off, you can't go cold turkey because you're going to go through that healing crisis, and you can't. You're trying to raise kids and soccer practice and school and taking care of aging parents and all the things we got going on today. People are busy. They don't have time for a healing crisis. That's why you have to go away to an institute like that. So people would come to my classes. I would teach them the whole thing. We had a lot of people get juicers, but the problem is only 1 out of 10 would stick with it. Within 30 to 60, 90 days, people, most of them, would have the juicers underneath the cover. They weren't using it anymore. And I was like, why? You saw what happened to me. You knew me. I know thousands of people in Portland, because I was in business for years. And I'm like, Charles, he healed himself of cancer. Why aren't you doing this? Tim, takes too much time. It's too much money. My husband won't help me with it. My wife won't help me with it. They're not on board. I'm getting made fun of or whatever, blah, blah, blah. It's too much work. And I'm like, man. So I'm like, what could I do to help these people? So I went out and interviewed 100 people that came to a class, bought the juicer, got excited, and then stopped. They wanted something simple and they wanted a plan. And it had to be, just has to be easy. So I went back to the drawing board. And right now I'd like to share my core 4 secrets that we teach everyone. This is the foundation to you transforming your health, losing the weight, getting the energy, boosting your immune system, whatever you need to do. Is that okay if I share those?
Absolutely.
Okay, so core secret number 1 is drinking half your body weight in liquid ounces of purified water daily. And if you live in the city, then the water needs to be purified and restructured so that you can actually absorb it, because the high pressure pipes in city water make the molecules stick together and they will not go through the intestinal lining very well, and you just kind of pee it out. That's very important. So that's it right there. And just on a side note, you can at least go to the grocery store in gallon glass jars and get single purified water for 25 to 44 cents a gallon. So there's no reason you can't at least get some 90% purified water in your life, okay? Okay, less than 5% of people are doing this. So if you're 200 pounds, that's 100 ounces of water a day. If you're 100 pounds, that's 50 ounces of water a day, just to maintain health. Now, if you're drinking caffeine-free teas or drinking like a green juice without, no sugar in it, we're not talking apple juice, orange juice, that kind of stuff. That doesn't count. Coffee doesn't count. Just flaxseed water, green juices with vegetable juices, and purified water itself. Hibiscus tea, all these count towards your water intake, okay? That one right there, less than 5% of the population is doing this, and we are literally sitting in a situation called cellular dehydration. This is like a national catastrophe right now that nobody knows about or is even talking about. And if 95% of us are dehydrated, when your body needs water, do you know where the first place it goes to get it? It's the colon. It's the colon. This is why people have this is what we learned, 6 to 12 pounds of impacted fecal material in that colon, because your colon's been dried up over the years because you don't drink enough water. And if your cells need water, or your brain needs water, or your bones are 22% water. Whatever your body needs for a process or an organ system needs water and it doesn't have what it needs, it goes to the colon. So the colon then can't evacuate waste properly. It doesn't work properly. So you see the problem? It's just this day in and day out. And it adds up and it builds up, and then you get backed up, and then you get messed up. That's what ends up happening. So simply by changing your water intake, you can allow your colon to start working, waste to start removing better. Your lymphatic system works on movement, water, and oxygen. You can start getting the garbage out through the lymphatic system better. You'll have more intelligence. Your IQ will go up if you drink more water, literally. The difference between not having enough water in your body could be the difference between finding your keys or searching around in your keys or hunting for your keys for 10, 15 minutes in the house trying to find them. That's the difference that water plays. And I had one lady, she implemented this at my class. 8 months later, I was teaching a class at a yoga studio, and I saw her, and I was like, God, that lady looks familiar, but I couldn't recognize her for some reason. And then I said, hey, you look familiar. She's like, well, yeah, I attended one of your classes 8 months ago. And I was like, oh, wow. Well, I don't know. I thought I noticed you, but you look different for some reason. She's like, well, I hope you noticed. She goes, I've lost 50 pounds. And I was like, whoa, wow, that's awesome. Now everybody's kind of tuning in and listening and taking notes. And I was like, well, what did you do to lose the 50 pounds? She goes, you gave me so much information that night, Tim. She's like, I just stuck with one thing, water. That's what I heard. So I did that. So every morning now I drink water. I do half my body weight. She goes, I dropped 50 pounds. And I'm like, well, that's great. What are you doing back this time? She goes, I'm here to find out what's next. I'm like, okay, here it is. And here's core secret number 2. Chew your food until liquefied. Okay, this is so important. We have 2 ducts in our upper mouth and 4 in our lower mouth that secrete the enzymes amylase and lipase. These break down our starches and our fats. Okay, and if you don't chew your food really well, they're not going to get digested. Instead of digestion and assimilation of nutrients, which is what we want, you're going to get fermentation and gut rot. And you're going to destroy those intestinal villi, or those little hair-like structures lining the intestinal tract, and you're going to end up with leaky gut like me. And 90% of people have leaky gut at some level, which is these little tears and holes in your intestinal tract where undigested food particles and microbes get into the bloodstream, and they start wreaking havoc and causing inflammation and causing headaches and weight gain and cancer and all these other problems, right? Hashimoto's, arthritis, everything. So chewing your food is of utmost importance. It's the first domino in digestion. And if you don't chew your food well, the first domino doesn't fall, and you're going to end up with a lifetime of gut rot, gas, bloating, and problems. Okay. So this one's big, and less than 4% of the population that I benchmarked is chewing their food well. And for those of you suffering from depression, by chewing your food really well and hitting those meridian points on your teeth, this is right from Dr. Gabriel Cousins, medical doctor, MD, you can increase your serotonin up to 500%, which is your happy juice, just by chewing and stimulating those meridian points in your teeth. So it's a huge deal. Core secret number 3 is avoiding liquids with meals. And people are like, what? Because, this is a tough one, especially when you go out to, go to a restaurant, if you can nowadays, and they're trying to, you want some water, would you like some wine, you want some tea, you want a beer, you want some coffee. They're always trying to upsell you into that stuff. So even when I tell them half the time I don't want water, they still bring it to me. Now that you've worked really hard to chew your food well and get it very small so it's easy to digest, and you've preloaded it with all those enzymes, if you drink purified, restructured, healthy water or apple juice or wine or beer, you're going to dilute those digestive enzymes, and you're going to go from assimilation of nutrients and digestion right back to fermentation and gut rot. And you're going to go right back to where you were. Problems, your gut will be jacked up. Less than 2% of the population is avoiding their liquids with meals. And we give a rule of thumb. For beginners, stop 30 minutes before you eat and wait an hour after you eat to start drinking liquids again. For those of you with stage 4 disease or wanting to win an Olympic gold medal or just be at your fit, top, best, stop drinking liquids an hour before and wait 2 hours after you eat and then start drinking a lot of liquids again. That's core secret number 3. And the last one is core secret number 4. This one is doing some breath exercises before you eat, just for a minute, maybe a minute or two. And it's as simple as this: taking a big breath in through the nose, pause at the top, and then release out through the mouth. And while you're going through this process, you can think about how grateful you are to have that breath, to have your life, to have this food in front of you that's going to nourish your body. And what ends up happening, Ashley, is most people, would you agree that we live in a stressed out environment, a world? Right. So even if you don't think you're stressed, you are. And when your body doesn't know the difference. So if you are in stress mode, which most of us are, and we're talking lots of stress, work stress, family stress, financial stress, COVID stress, EMF stress, there's lots of stresses on us, right? Your body will take as a defense mechanism, you go into fight or flight mode. The blood actually leaves the organ systems because digestion is not important now. You got to fight something to live, or you got to run to live. So all the blood and all the energy goes out to your extremities. Cortisol gets jacked up, adrenals, all these things. So by simply doing this breath work for a minute to two, you bring the blood from the extremities back into the organ system so you can actually digest your food properly. Less than 1% of the population is doing that. Now, of these core 4 secrets, besides getting some glass jars and packing the water from the purifying place, how much does that cost anybody? Nothing. It's free, right? There they are. So being healthy doesn't, and I have so many people when they order our products, they heard me on a podcast or whatever radio show. They're like, Tim, I'm already feeling better before I even got your products, because they started implementing these things. They're just common sense. I've used this for 10 years. I've shared it with thousands of people. It works for everybody, every single person. And I tell people, until you've done it yourself, how do you know? You have to have first person experience. Don't believe what I say. You got to go home and try it, right? Now that because people are like, well, I haven't changed my food, I'm going to exercise and do all this. I'm like, no, you don't even have your foundation in place first. This is the foundation. This is the sub-basement to build upon. And then after that, then we really get deep with our products into the detoxing, into the nutrition, into the bacteria, and to all the other stuff.
Awesome. So cool. I love it. I love that you point out that anyone can start this, and you can start it. You can start it slow, and you can start one habit at a time. I think the chewing the food more is something that is going to take a bit of conscious effort, especially if you're used to just like drinking a lot of water. I've seen a lot of people do this where they just take maybe 2 bites and then drink some water to help get it down. And the food hasn't really been chewed. Slowing down.
Well, I have a solution for this, if I can share.
Yeah.
So I do private coaching one-on-one, and in the beginning I didn't charge anything because I didn't value myself. Now I have people pay me thousands of dollars a month to coach them if they want to work with me. I have other coaches. It's not that expensive, but the first thing I do on our initial call, we do this onboarding call, is I have them pull out their phone and I have them program these things into their life with reoccurring appointments. Now think about it. If I say plop, plop, fizz, fizz, oh, what a relief it is, many people listening today know what I'm talking about. We're talking about Alka-Seltzer, right? And why is that? It's because television programming, they actually call it that. They're telling you, hey, we're going to program you. That's what they call it, television program. My dad was like, what program are we going to watch tonight? We're getting programmed with commercials. The habitual repetitive motion. You say something long enough, and often enough, people believe it is true, or they'll remember it, because what you're doing is just simple. It's programming the subconscious mind. So what I have my clients do is they wake up in the morning and it says, drink water, and they pick the time and they hit a reoccurring appointment, and it's like it says drink water, right? And then maybe 30 minutes later it'll say green juice, gut detox, toxin detox. Those are our products, and we have them plug that in as a reminder. Then at lunchtime it says chew food, or just you can put chew food, avoid liquids, breath, probiotics, enzymes, and we have that as a recurring appointment. And in the afternoon, green juice, and then at dinner, chew food, avoid liquids, breath, enzymes, and recurring. So I have them set up that structure, and then every day their phone, bzz, 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 they look down, they see it, they see it, they see it, they see it, they see it. They're smart. They're now programming it. They're using their phone to program themselves. And in 3 to 4 months, you're going to have a hard time forgetting those 4 things. And everybody improves. That's the easiest, cheapest way I've found to do it, because everybody carries their phone around.
Very cool. What kind of juicer? Could it just be any juicer, or do you like the masticating juicer over the centrifugal juicer? Is it better just to get any juicer and just start doing it, or do you have a preference?
Well, it really depends on what you want to do. Like if you're just going to do celery juice, then you could get a cheaper like centrifugal one and just it's really fast. But the ones that are the most nutritious, like I'm putting sprouts and wheatgrass through mine. I can do wheatgrass juice. I can turn right around and make a nice sprout juice. I do cucumber and celery and sunflower and pea sprouts, and I'll put some ginger in there, or turmeric, or some lemons and limes, maybe some vegetables from time to time, like leafy greens or whatever. And what you want is a slow auger juicer that's going to turn under 70 to 75 RPMs, very slow. So it's not going to create all that oxidization, like a wind tunnel that's going to oxidize and devalue the nutrients quickly. That's very important. So it's just a really slow auger juicer. And the one we recommend now is like there's an Omega. Omega's got a bunch of them. You can pick them, but I can't remember the exact model number now, because I used to be like super into the juicers, but I still use my old Omega 8006. It just works. But there's newer ones that actually work a little bit better, and they don't get gummed up as much. They're awesome. But you can get one of those for like $350 and you're dialed. Or like you said, go to OfferUp. People are selling stuff like crazy now, or they started juicing, they got all excited about it, and they gave up on it. Hey, take my juicer for $100, and you can get a $300-$400 juicer for $100.
Yeah, right. I've got them for even cheaper. But yeah, I have an Omega that I got back in 2008 for, I don't know, $30 or something. And
That's a deal.
I know. Like these people who are just like, I just want to get it out of the house, or,
Totally.
whatever. It's just, there are so many juicers out there. You want one, you can find one at your budget. But the Omega is fantastic. I love the Omega. I've had such great success with it.
Yeah, they're really good. And I literally healed myself with juicing. I mean, I juiced twice a day for 5 years because I was like, I'm healing Charles. I'm committed. I gave my word that I would do this with him. So that's another thing, is to get a buddy and stuff. But so the first product that we actually developed, this could be a good segue, is our Green 85 juice formula. And it's basically as close to a fresh pressed juice as you can get. So this is where I met people where they're at. It's simple, it's easy, right? So they just take a scoop, mix it in water, shake it up, and they drink it. It takes literally under a minute, and they're done. And they're flooding their body with all this nutrition. Now, if you still want to juice, do it. I totally do it. Like I made a fresh juice this morning, and I put a scoop of Green 85 in it, right? Because I want more, right? So that's what I do. But we have stuff like that available for people. So for those of you that don't want to buy a juicer, I recommend that you do at some point. But you can get this in yourself once or twice a day easily. There's no juicing, there's no cleanup, there's no mess, there's no and the grocery bills are it's way cheaper. And then when people are drinking these greens twice a day, your grocery bill drops about $100 a month. If you're drinking it once a day, it drops about 50, because as the cells get hydrated from all this new water you're going to be drinking, hopefully, and you drink these greens and get the nutrients in there, the cells are going to send signals saying, hey, I'm not hungry. You just can't eat as much. It's impossible. And so your body just whips right back up into shape and your grocery bill drops. It's pretty cool. So you can do this on a budget. You just have to be strategic about it.
Very cool. Why is it called Green 85? Is it 85?
Yeah, we called it Green 85 Juice Formula. Not because I'm a marketer or anything. It's just because it replaces the 85% of nutrition that's farmed out of the soil. Most people aren't aware of this, that even if you're eating organic vegetables or organic meat, the food sources that those things with the soil is 85% deficient on average. So it's just not there. So if it's not in the soil, it's not going to be in the plant or in the animal that ate the plant. So literally almost all of us are literally actually walking around on 15% fuel or 15% octane. So what I teach people to do is how to get up to 100% octane. And we figured it out with our products now to make it easy for people so they can do it. And our whole program, like it's a clinic in a box, like literally completely from the inside out, gut health, blood health. It takes less than 5 minutes a day. So it meets people where they're at with their time constraints. But yeah, so that's why we called it Green 85, is because it replaces the 85% that's been farmed out of our soils today.
How do you guarantee that your stuff has all of the minerals and the vitamins in it that we need? If the nutrients isn't in the soil, how do you get it in your sprout formula?
So what we do is it's all about sourcing. So sourcing the individual ingredients from farms and farmers that understand how to keep their soils healthy. Either they are doing permaculture, or maybe they remineralize with rock dust, or even better, they're remineralizing with like ionic ocean minerals that they get and concentrate out of the ocean. There's a company called oceansolutions.com. I'll just give them a plug because the stuff's awesome. You can get a gallon, and you should get a gallon of this stuff. It's like $55 or something. And you can put like a little quarter of a teaspoon or half a teaspoon in with your sprouts when you soak them, and deliver tremendous amounts more minerals, because the plants will soak that stuff up. You can do your lawn with it. You can do your garden. We did my brother's garden. We sprayed one spray with ionic ocean minerals, and the size of his garden doubled. And they were like, what is going on? I'm like, yeah, the soil's deficient, right? So, and the other thing that you can tell is that how you feel. When you start drinking this stuff on a daily basis, it's going to radically change your physiology from the inside out. I've personally made 3 runs at it. I wanted to do 40 days and 40 nights on just Green 85. The first time I tried it, I made it 11 days. Then I made it 26 days. And then last year, I finally made it 40 days. And all I had was Green 85, 3 to 5 times a day. I had hibiscus tea, which is just water and hibiscus leaves. And I did some Irish sea moss in the morning and night. And then I actually did do a chai tea latte, which was just, but no sugar. So that's what I lived on for 40 days, was Green 85.
So you were doing a fast.
Yeah. And the time before, when I did it 26 days, it was only Green 85, and I never felt better. Now, I don't want to blow people out of the water here too and think you have to do that stuff, because I remember when I was at the Institute and this guy was on a 10-day fast, and I'm like, 10 days you didn't eat? How is that even possible? See, I wasn't even ready for that. It takes time to build up the mental strength and the understanding of how the body works. And then you have to be willing to go through a little pain to feel amazing. Because usually the first 2-3 days of a fast, it's like, ooh, you're not feeling so good. You're freaking cravings. And then all of a sudden you're just not hungry at all. And it just goes away. And your body kicks into ketosis and it starts burning up all the fat and the dead cells in your body. And, it just starts cleaning you up. Mm-hmm. And, we were nomadic people for almost the entirety of time we walked this planet. So we'd walk for 2 or 3 days, and then we'd eat some food. Then we'd walk for 2 or 3 days. We wouldn't eat. And then we would allow our digestive tract a time to rest and clean itself up, and our blood to clean itself up. We were just literally eating ourselves to death. And like you said, with the cereals and stuff, I mean, I don't even want to get started on that, but it's terrible. They're putting genetically modified wheat as an example. So it's grown in a lab, raised in soils that are deficient, sprayed with chemical fertilizers, chemical pesticides, fungicides, larvicides, herbicides. They grind it up in its dormant state, which if I gave you some hard red winter wheat and had you, or spring wheat and had you chew it, you'd crack a tooth. You can't digest that. It would come out just how it looks when it went in your mouth. But they grind it in that dormant state into a powder. They add sugar, water, and yeast. They cook it at high temperatures, devalue it more, and then they spray synthetic vitamins on it. They call it enriched vitamins. And then they give it to kids. And this is supposed to be health food, right? And then it's even worse. Now they're putting super sugars like high fructose corn syrup and corn syrup that are like 50% by weight glyphosate. This is not me saying it. This is right out of MIT. Right? It's bad. Like 50% by weight high fructose corn syrup is glyphosate. It's Roundup. So ketchups and stuff. This stuff started freaking me out. But that's not good enough. They want more addiction. So they hire these engineers types, and they pay them like big salaries, and they've created these opiate derivatives that they put in cereals, and it's not even on the box, to further addict us and our children to these cereals. So the cereal thing is really ticks me off. The only one that I would purchase is Ezekiel brand natural. That's actually sprouted grains. That's it. They have sprouted grains ground up, and you just put it in some seed milk, and then off you go, flaxseed milk or something like that. So you've got proper food combining. And then you've got a cereal you could actually eat, and it's not going to destroy your health.
Right. And some of us have allergies to gluten or can't eat barley, wheat, rye, or oats. So cereal is just it's not even on the table. But you know what? I've gotten used to eating big, beautiful salads for breakfast. Or actually, what I do is I take my sprouts. Like I told you, day 5 is my favorite. I take a big bowl of sprouts, of my lentil sprouts, and I drizzle balsamic vinegar on it, and then I take a little bit of either coconut aminos or soy aminos, the Bragg's aminos, and then I just mix it up, and I eat a big bowl of lentil sprouts for breakfast. And you wouldn't, I was surprised, because then it was all of a sudden 2 p.m. and I'm like, wow, I'm just starting to get hungry. That big bowl of lentil sprouts gave me energy through the whole morning and well into the afternoon. And it was really cool. So sometimes on days like that, I just have that for breakfast, and then I just make a really big, beautiful dinner, and that's it. And so we can get away from this idea of having to eat what we ate as children, right? Or what we were marketed to our entire lives. I love that you brought up that we have to remember to not become relaxed and give into because sometimes people say, oh, well, just in moderation, I don't want to get too strict. I'm going to be in moderation. And once in a while, we're going to eat the standard American diet, we'll just buy this Cheerios or whatever once in a while. But we have to remember that the glyphosate, the Roundup is so concentrated when they make high fructose corn syrup. It's so concentrated. And I've had 2 really great interviews with Dr. Stephanie Seneff, who's the PhD top research scientist from MIT, who is an activist trying desperately to let us know, and she doesn't get paid to do any of it. She's trying to let us know that glyphosate is such a harmful chemical. It binds to heavy metals and releases them into our brain and into our kidneys, causing major problems with developmental issues for children. But also can cause kidney disease and actually damage to the brain. So
it's in over 70% of the rainwater today, just to give people an idea of how much it's out there. It's bad. And that Stephanie gal, she's smart. I've seen some of her work. She was also talking about the laminate floors are directly linked to autism in children, another contributing cause. Some really good work that she's done. She's done some really cool stuff.
Yes, we have to, in cleaning up our diet and our water and our food, we also have to consider the environmental factors that are in our home, because the air quality in our home can be 10 times more pollution than outside, than being in a busy street in downtown, whatever town you're in. And yet we think that it's fresh air inside, but it's not, because everything is off gassing.
Yeah.
So we have to remember that. Open the windows.
Maybe we are related, because you sound like me. Like I feel like I'm listening to myself. Am I talking about like the paint's off gassing, the glues are off gassing, we're breathing this stuff in? It's like it's really cool to be chatting with you today.
You might have heard of the Sternagels. Have you heard of them?
Mm-mm.
So I'll connect you guys. So the Sternagels are a family. I've had them on the show. Their son at a year old, and actually his pediatrician was our pediatrician. We used to, they now live in Utah. But we found out that we actually lived really close to each other. At 1 year old, their son was diagnosed with cancer. And so the last 5 years he's been fighting cancer. And as part of and it came back. It actually, they got it to go away, and then it came back again. So they really have been fighting it for 5 years, maybe 6 years now. He now has a clean bill of health. Spoiler alert, but
Nice.
they tell a great story of how they've had to fight cancer twice. The first time they used natural medicine and in conjunction with some allopathic medicine, and the second time it came back, they got the oncologist blessing, because they're very persuasive, to just allow them to do 100% natural medicine and watch and wait and see. And they're able to 100% help their child to not have any cancer, any tumors. He had tumors in his nervous system and in his spine, and very painful. And so they, in their journey, like you, they've really gotten clear that the toxins in their house and in their environment needed to be thrown away. So they moved to Utah, took the rest of their life savings, bought some land in a beautiful area, and they built from scratch a completely non-toxic home. And he teaches people, he shares all this information, teaches people how to do it. But his whole thing is like, it's like, what kind of light bulbs are you going to use? What kind of carpeting? What kind of paint? What kind of caulking? What kind of tile? Just every single square inch of their house is the lowest toxic. And it's just amazing the things we take for granted that we don't realize are affecting and are contributing to potential cancer, contributing to potential disease, or slowing the development of our children. Like you said, Dr. Stephanie said, if seeing that there's even a link from laminate floors and the off-gassing to potentially creating autism-like symptoms in children. You mentioned Irish moss. Why did you take it, and how do you take it?
I take it because it's got like 92 minerals in it. It's chocked full of minerals. It can be used as a thickener. You can make a pudding with it. You can make a key lime pie with it, or you can just eat it with plain, or you could squeeze some lime or lemon juice on it, a little bit of salt, and consume it in the beginning. And it's just it's a wonderful thing. It's great for the gastrointestinal tract, for your skin, your brain health, your gut health, everything. And what I do is I get a really I try to get the purple stuff. It's harder to find, especially now with everybody home. Everybody's buying all this stuff up. And it's either white or purple. I try to get the wild crafted purple stuff. And that it can be more expensive, like $35 to $45 a pound. But then I take a half a pound of it and I soak it in water for 10 to 12 hours. Then I rinse it off and I pick out any little sea stuff or rocks that's left over. It's pre-washed, but there's still stuff left. And then I put it in a blender with a little bit of water and blind it to kind of a paste, add more water. And I just keep doing that until I got about a half a gallon. From that half a pound will turn into about a half a gallon of this gel. And then I put it in the fridge and it gels up. And then I just, every morning and night, I take a big, huge scoop of it. And, that stuff is, that stuff's awesome. It really is.
Does it taste good?
I wouldn't say that in the beginning, because especially when it comes out of the blender, it's kind of warm. It really needs to chill, right? I mean, I can eat it warm now, but I'm still like, ugh. I mean, it's still what it is. It's like a sea vegetable. It's not like Dulce Flakes. Dulce, I think, is really good. We have a lot of Dulce in our. We put that in our Green 85 formula because it's got a lot of iodine in it, and that's one of the big reasons so many people have thyroid issues today, is because there's a lack of iodine. And it's one of the four halogens. You got iodine, bromide, chloride, and fluoride. And the what I was taught was that the thyroid thinks that those other ones, like chlorine, fluoride, and bromide, are iodide, especially if it's not getting enough of it. So it grabs it. It's like, oh, iodide, but it's not. And then it doesn't communicate properly. It's like, wah, 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 wah. Like it doesn't talk and give clear directions. So about 3, especially for women listening with breast cancer, we've been taught to give them tons and tons of iodine. And we like it through a root system of a plant so that it's converted from rock form to a carbon-based form. So that just more, it works better. And you just sweep, and sweep that out, and then get the thyroid chock full of a normal plant-based vitamin or iodine that's been through the root system of a plant that really helps out with breast cancer. There's a lot of studies on that kind of stuff too.
I love Ludo's iodine, which is this has been derived from sea vegetables, but I like yours better because I love a whole food source of nutrients because then you're always going to get it in the right ratios. So you're getting iodine in the right ratios with the other
Mm-hmm.
trace elements. And I love that you brought up that something that people are getting in their body every day, the bromine or the fluoride or the chlorine, they're getting it in their tap water, or they're getting it when they go in their hot tub, or when they go swimming in a swimming pool. We're absorbing these chemicals that
Or their
confuse.
toothpaste, or their
Oh,
bread,
yeah.
or their bread. You know, it's crazy.
Ew. Oh, right. Processed foods would have
Bromide.
bromide in it, but would also have processed foods are made with tap water, right? So they're going to have that.
Yep.
You know, what's really interesting. It made me so sad, but frozen vegetables, which I thought was sort of a good alternative if you can't get to the grocery store often. Frozen vegetables are processed by being washed in highly chlorinated water.
Yeah.
And so
Genius.
when you, because they're supposed to make them disinfected or whatever, you know, so they it's great because it's fresh, right? They're picking it from the farm and immediately flash freezing it, but before they immediately flash freeze it, they wash it several times with highly chlorinated water. So then that chlorine is getting into your system, or those chemicals are getting into your system from your tap water, from swimming, from your bread, from taking showers. If you don't, like, I live on a well, so I feel really blessed, and I haven't used fluoridated toothpaste in 12 years because I woke up back then discovered why fluoride is so bad, not in its natural occurring state in the ground, because fluoride we can eat fluoride when it comes out of the ground. It's one of those trace elements the body needs, but not in the chemical form. Sodium fluoride confuses the thyroid, and the thyroid is absorbing these instead of the iodine, and then the thyroid can't make the hormones. So then we go to an MD, and the MD gives us what? Gives us a prescription when the thyroid isn't working because we're giving the body chemicals.
Yeah, so you get more chemicals. And this is this is really important, because this really helped me. If all the listeners have to do is type in umbilical cord and the word chemical.
Oh,
geez. Just type that in, umbilical cord and chemical, and you can go back to 2005 and you can see the studies showing that they actually take the umbilical cord blood from these brand new babies and young mothers, and they tested for like 400 chemicals, right? They found 71% of what they were looking for about 250 toxic chemicals. 180 cause cancer in humans, 212 cause developmental and brain disorders, and on down the list it goes. The scientists and doctors refer to this as a body burden. How come this is not being blasted on mainstream media? You'll see it 2005, 2010, 2013, 2012, the different studies that come out, you know, environmental working group, different places, and nobody's talking about it. That's when I realized, I'm like, oh my God, if the youngest of the young babies and the young mothers, the healthiest of everybody, is already being born into this world with a body burden, we're all polluted. Mm-hmm. Everybody's polluted. I realized that. So I've been on a mission. That's what we call our company, Chemical Free Body, because you can look at the studies, and if that doesn't hit you upside the head like a frying pan, and you realize that you're polluted, even though you can't see it, doesn't mean it's not the case. Okay, because we're all breathing the same air, drinking the water, eating these foods, and we're exposed to all these personal care products that you don't think. And like you were saying, everything's the off gassing. You got people spraying chemtrails, automobile exhaust, rubber compounds coming off of tires. Where does that go? Well, the tires started out with a lot of tread, and then you got to get new tires every year or two. Why? Where'd the rubber go? It goes into the environment, microscopic. You breathe it in, it attaches to your mucous membrane in the back of your throat, and down into your gut it goes. And that's where the problems are. So that's why we have really focused on becoming, like, teaching people how to become a mechanic for their own self, be doctoring themselves. It's like you're a mechanic. If the car's not running right, you got to check body light or check engine light. Like, here's the example: car's not running right, check engine light comes on. Do you just keep driving that car? No, nobody does that, because they know if they keep driving it and they don't take it into the mechanic, the repair bill could get huge. Or the car could explode or break down, and they're stranded at the side of the road and they can't get where they want to go anymore. So when check engine lights come on, people take them in and get them fixed. It makes sense. It's common sense. But when, as our own bodies, the most important vehicle that you're ever going to own, it's the only one you got, has a check body light, like you've gained weight, you have low energy, you have headaches,
You're
you
bleeding
have heart
rectally.
disease. Yeah, you're bleeding rectally. You have cancer. You all these things. You have eczema on your elbows. You're on medications. These are your body is just flashing the lights like, hey, hey, stop, stop, take me in, tune me up. This is where the self-care comes into place, and you have to start loving self and realizing that the only person that's going to take care of your body is you, not me, not Ashley, not some doctor, not your aunt, your uncle, your grandma, your brother, your sister, your husband, your wife. It has to be you. You have look at animals; they take care of themselves. The cat wakes up, it stretches, does its yoga poses, it licks its fur, it takes care of itself, right? We don't do that. We expect everybody else to do it. So, and we take really good care of the outside. We wake up, we shower, we brush our hair, we get our face, we get our makeup on, we get our earrings and our everything's looking good. The coat's looking good, the skirt's looking right. But what do we do to the inside of ourselves? You can't see it. So it's not paid attention to. If we start, so what we do is we teach people to take care of the inside. And, we got to, if the car's not running right, you flush the transmission fluid, you flush the engine, new spark plugs, new fuel filter, new air filter, water filter. Then you put in the good fuel, and then you maintenance that sucker. And that's what we're teaching people to do with their bodies. You clean out the digestive tract. We have a product called Gut Detox. It's 1,000 ancient-year-old formula from India. It works beautifully for that. You want to purify the blood. We have a product called Toxin Detox. It was originally 2 formulas for the military that will purify the blood of heavy metals, radiation, and toxic chemicals like glyphosate, as an example, right? And then where are you going to get the fuel? Well, you need to flood the body with that green nutrition twice a day. We have a product for that. And then you got to recolonize that bacteria. Probiotic spores. We do the spore-based rather than regular probiotics because they die in the stomach acid. And for those of you eating yogurt and thinking that's a health food, it's a dessert. Probiotics are bacteria, okay? When you heat them, which by law you have to do that to all that yogurt, it's pasteurized. It's 190 degrees. They're dead. So yes, you're getting probiotics, but you're getting the corpse of a probiotic. It's dead. It's not going to, there's no benefit. You're just having breakfast, or you're having dessert for breakfast with yogurt and that kind of stuff, right? So all these things come into play, and it's really about the internal health. And when you clean out the gut and you clean the blood and you start flooding the body with nutrition and flooding the body with these bacteria and eating fermented foods like sauerkrauts and kimchis and these types of things, and more bacteria, and getting outside and getting your hands in the dirt, more bacteria, petting dogs and let the dog kiss you, more bacteria, the healthier you're going to be. That's how it works.
I love it. There are plant-based fermented yogurts you can find that are raw. There's one
like Coco Yo.
Yeah, Coco Yo. So what I do, I learned this from my friend Naomi. So Naomi and I created a whole food plant-based course, like videos. We basically just made videos in her kitchen because she's amazing at whole food plant-based. I was doing it before her, then she started because she had a heart disease diagnosis, and then she started spreading it. Her whole family started doing it. Her parents started doing it, and then they all saw these great benefits. And she's really creative in the kitchen, getting people with very picky appetites to like the food. So she figured out, she soaks cashews, raw cashews, and then takes cashews, puts in the Vitamix, blends it, and then mixes in a few spoonfuls of the Coco Yo, and a very little water, and then ferments it for about 24 to 48 hours on the counter, and it makes the most delicious. And it works best when we use Coco Yo because of the live culture. We can really tell the difference. But it makes the most delicious, like cream cheese, sour cream. And you don't need a ton of it because it's
strong.
Yeah, it's strong. It's very dense, nutritionally very dense, calorically dense. But her kids will fight over it, and so she had to take it and put it in individual little containers with their name on it, because they would literally fight over it, which is really cool. She's made other great, delicious recipes where the kids will fight over it and not leave any for the dad when he gets home from work. And that always surprises her, because she made a vegetable dish the other day with mushrooms, and her kids hate mushrooms, but the way she made it, it was so delicious. They ate it all up and they didn't leave any for the dad. So she had to make a second dinner. It's just so cool when she never would have thought that her kids would get excited over a whole food plant-based diet. And so there's just ways of making it really delicious. When you consider, when I used to cook years ago, I would start with, okay, well, we're going to have a roast for dinner. We're going to have the salmon for dinner. We're going to have, we're going to have the pork chops, or we're going to have the chicken. And you would start with what's the meat, and then what complements meat? Well, I guess I'll make some couscous, or I guess I'll make some broccoli, or, you kind of bring in the side dishes, right? Now my focus is, what can I eat to heal my gut? What can I eat to maintain my energy and my vitality? What can I eat to get nutrients in my body? And that becomes sort of the compass or the foundation of that meal. And then it's like, oh, what can I eat that's raw today? What can I eat that has all those delicious raw enzymes that my body needs? And then I build the meal upon that. And so if you bring your focus to what you want to heal in your body and what you want to support your whole family, what can I eat to support my immune system? What can I eat to help my liver detoxify? And then you build the meals upon the premise of healing the body. And so your kitchen becomes your pharmacy, instead of, oh, what can I eat that's just delicious? Because these foods are delicious, and they can absolutely be delicious. But we have to make our focus be, what can I do to support the 37.2 trillion cells in my body? So in 7 years, I'm a totally new person, but I'm actually going to be younger cellularly. I'm going to be younger in 7 years. What can I do to make me younger? Now, as women, we spend thousands of dollars in our lifetime on face creams to make our skin appear as young as possible. But we've got to actually work on the nutrition on the inside. And when we do that, then our skin will develop younger looking cells. So instead of focusing on what I can slop on my face, we should be focusing on what nutrients we give our body that will make healthy cells. And then we actually look younger and younger. And it's so true. I love it.
I would say that, well, it's usually coming more from our women clients, but in 6 months on our protocols, people look 5 years younger. And you'll know once you start getting about 3 to 4 unsolicited comments, like maybe your hairdresser will be like, wow, your skin's looking good, or your roots are coming in thicker. What are you doing? Or something, once you get about 3, or somebody will just say, wow, you look younger. And in the beginning, it feels weird, because I started getting this from people, and especially from a guy, redneck, supposed to like eat meat and drink whiskey and shoot guns or something. Now it's like, like, hey, Tim, you have really beautiful skin. I mean, that made me feel my skin crawl in the beginning when people started telling me this stuff, because I didn't even know how to take it, because nobody had ever talked to me like that before. It's like, and now I'm like, my skin is beautiful. Thank you so much. I love it. I love getting the comments, and I like freaking people out. I can't wait till I turn 50. I can't wait till I turn 60, because I like people going, what? I want to be that guy that's like 110, sprinting down the beach, playing, tag football with my great grandkids. And they think I'm like they're an old dad or a healthy grandpa, or something. You know what I mean? Because I know that's possible now, because I've met people that are doing this. Like Dr. Gabriel Cousins, he lives a living food diet. You should have him on. He's awesome. He goes deep into diabetes and stuff. Wasn't trying to do that, but he's got books written on it. But the dude's like 80 something. He can do like 30 pull-ups. He did like a rain dance for the Indians. He was telling all the Indians, you got to stop eating the buffalo and you got to start eating plants. And they thought he was crazy. And nobody had done this rain dance in like a decade or 4 decades or 10 decades or something. It's been a long time, because it's 2 days, no sleep, doing this dance. Well, he did it. He did it in like late 70s, early 80s. And then afterwards, all the chiefs were like, well, maybe we should start eating plants, because nobody's been able to do that dance for 40 years, or whatever it was. So,
wow.
It's the results speak for themselves. People see other people, and it's about you have to, if you want people around you to change, you have to make those changes for yourself. There's no question about it. That's how you do it.
Awesome. I love it. In the last few years, since you've been working with people and helping them to adapt a more whole food, plant-based, even more raw foods lifestyle to support their overall health, what diseases have you seen people reverse? What medications have you seen people get off of because they became so healthy?
Everything. I've seen everything.
Can you give us some stories or some examples?
Yeah, there's been, like one of the first ones was this guy that had multiple sclerosis. His name was Bob, and this guy had come to me, and he's like, I met this other guy in the grocery store at Whole Foods. He had a whole bunch of stuff, and I'm like, wow, you must be juicing. He's like, well, actually, I got horses, and we feed all these carrots to the horses. And I was like, oh, well, I was like, I just started juicing, so I thought you were, because I used to, when I first started juicing, I said I was doing carrots and that kind of stuff. And he's like, no, it's for horses. Well, anyway, he came over, came to one of my dinner classes. He was a attorney, really nice, just a gentleman. The guy was a sweetheart, and we became friends. And then he was part of this men's Bible group, and this guy Bob had MS. He's like, God, Tim, will this help Bob? And I'm like, yeah, actually, what I heard was that people with MS, they actually really need this. Besides the lifestyle and the juicing, they need the blue-green algae. It comes from Klamath Lake down in Oregon here, and it really bolsters and strengthens the fatty tissue of the brain. And what I was told is that MS is a virus that's attacking the fatty tissue of the brain. So we want to bolster and strengthen that up. So it's one of the protocols they use at the Hippocrates Health Institute for people with MS. Well, this guy couldn't even walk. He had a caregiver, and I don't know how long it was, a few months or whatever. He was on the protocols, and all of a sudden, he was driving up to his house, and the guy was walking across the street and getting his newspaper, and he pulled up. He's like, Bob, look at you. And he's like, what? He goes, you're getting the newspaper, man. You're walking. He's like, well, yeah, I guess I am. And then, a few months later, all of a sudden I get this knock on the door, and it's Bob and his caregiver. And he's walking, he comes, I never met the guy before. It was just somebody through osmosis, right? And he's like, I just wanted to come by and say thank you, because the stuff that you've been sharing with my buddy has helped me. I've been able to get out of the house. I can walk now. I'm getting around to do things, and I feel a lot better. And believe me, he wasn't fully on the whole program at all. But the changes he made had made a significant impact for him. Right. And it wasn't just the blue-green algae, the E3 life. It was the brain-on version. That's very important for those of you that are writing that down. You might have somebody with MS, but it's like a super-duper omega is what it is. Like you're looking for those omegas. It's a sub basement of where all omega comes from. So we recommend people do that for a 2 to 3 year period, and then after that you can do it sporadically. But human beings aren't supposed to like eat algae all the time. But for healing, it can be a good thing.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree with you. I've had several interviews with Catherine Arnston, who's the creator of energybits.com, and she gives us a great discount. Listeners can use the LTH coupon at energybits.com. But she shares her story, and she sources blue-green algae and also, so it's chlorella and also spirulina. And she has it tested, has the water that it's grown in tested. It's all purified. It's very important. There's 0 heavy metals. There's other companies out there. You can buy it cheaper, but the problem with buying it cheaper is it's full of lead and full of heavy metals and full of pollution. So there's only a handful of companies out there that will test it. She actually has it tested twice. She has it tested where it's grown, and also has then the final product tested for purity to make sure there's no heavy metals and there's no pollution in it. And I'm really impressed with the quality of hers. And hers actually don't taste fishy like other companies do. Hers taste like, I don't know, fresh. It
clean.
It tastes clean. But yeah, they're like, my son loves them. He's 5, but he's been eating them his whole life. He calls them green crackers, and he loves that it turns his tongue different colors depending on which one he's eating. But yeah, he loves that game. So if you want to get kids into it, it's like, look at my tongue. You can make your tongue green, or you can make your tongue kind of like this bluish color. And then they freak out and they want to do it too. And that's a great way to get kids to eat it. But it also helps to chelate the heavy metals from the body. That's part of the protocol that a doctor here, I've had him on the show, Dr. Klinghardt. He's just outside of Seattle, and he has a clinic where he basically reverses autism. So he gets kids that are nonverbal, rocking themselves or hitting their head or banging themselves against a wall. He gets them from the point where they're completely shut in their own nervous system and unable to communicate or connect with people. He gets them to where they're able to go to college, where they're like they're totally no longer on the spectrum. And I think it's because they don't actually have autism. I think most of the children that are diagnosed with autism, it's autism-like symptoms, and that it's the chemical toxicity. And so what he does, Dr. Klinghardt has a whole protocol where he cleans the child's body out of all of the heavy metals and nutrifies the body like you've been talking about, and has them remove the chemicals in their life like you're talking about, and they just come back online. He has them do green juicing just like you're talking about. He has them do chlorella and spirulina and do saunas, and depending on their age.
Is he having them do chlorine dioxide?
I don't know, but I will find out. He has a whole protocol, and And then a lot of it is natural food based as well.
Totally.
Like he puts herbs in their green smoothies that also are natural chelators. So it's easy to put just these herbs that you can grow yourself in your own garden into your green smoothies every day. But that's when I first learned about that he specifically uses it with children very effectively. That he gives them the algae, and he will only recommend the one of the few brands out there that are so clean, like Catherine Arnston's brands. But we've had her on the show a few times because she went into all the studies and talks about the nutritional profile of a chlorella and spirulina, and it's fascinating. You can get all of
Oh,
your vitamin
it's amazing.
K, right?
It's amazing. We have our top four ingredients, spirulina and chlorella in there,
Mm-hmm.
and they're all that we test them like crazy. So it's very important that people understand the ingredients. It's you can't even believe labels anymore today. You have to know the people behind it. That's the only
Yes.
way. And here's what this only reason I have the supplement brand now is because of frustration.
Mm-hmm.
As a health coach, I would do all this research. I'm like, okay, I got to clean their gut. This product. Okay, we need to purify their blood. This one. We need a green juice. This one. And then we need digestive enzymes. That one. We need probiotics. That one. And then 6 months later, I'm looking. I'm like, what? Xanthan gum? That wasn't in there before. And I'm comparing the bottles, and I call them up.
Yes.
I'm like, what's this? And it's like it's fermented mutated corn syrup fermented in bacteria. I'm like, what? I'm like, I'm not putting that in my body. And then I started reading the labels and I started looking up every little ingredient, dicalcium phosphate, the wrong type of silica that would cause hardening to arteries, gallstones, and kidney stones. So after research, I'd finally get something. I tell everybody about it. My coaching clients are using it, and then they'd switch the ingredients on me. And after this happened like 3-4 times, Ashley, I finally said, this is enough. So I found
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Scott Treadway, who's one of the top formulators in the world, and he actually studied in India under two like lineages of thousands of years of apprenticeship in herbology. And then he studied Chinese herbology and then Western herbology. So he's got this like trifecta of knowledge. He did practice clinical work with patients, seeing his own patients for 10 years, besides when he was getting trained in India. And then now he's one of the top supplement formulators in the world. And when we met, we were just like, I was looking for somebody. I went through 30 labs until I met him. And I'm like, do you know what Kirlian photography is? And he's like, oh, yes, we have 2 of those machines. I'm like, really? So for those of you that don't know what that is, it's a machine that can actually measure the energy or the frequency from whatever you're pointing it at. Kind of like a night scope, right? So what's cool is we can process. Anytime you process anything, you're devaluing the nutrients. So what we do in ours is like on our wheatgrass juice extract or spirulina or oatgrass juice or wheat sprout or broccoli sprout or moringa leaf, anything that's in our products, they're air dried or sun dried under 110 degrees to keep those enzymes or that life force active. So it's actually a charge. So not only are you getting the vitamins, the minerals, the trace minerals, but you're literally getting a frequency charge from the product itself. It's literally charging the cells instant contact. And we've had those people that are intuitives or Reikis, people that are really into the energy healing. They'll come to booths that we have at events, and they'll take one sip of our greens, and they'll look like, what is this stuff? I mean, they just flip out. And then I'll take 6 cans. And then the people working there are like, what's going on? And then they see that they're in tune and they know, right? So that's what we tell people on our greens. Don't blend it because was it like 90 seconds in a blender, you're going to kill 85 to 92% of the nutrition of whatever you put in there. So make your smoothie if you're going to do that. Add the greens in later, stir it in, spoon it in, shake it up, and drink it that way to not kill that life force. That's very important. And then please read your labels. On my products, you'll see in red on all of them, no magnesium stearate, no silicon dioxide, no dicalcium phosphate. And I can't tell you how many people have called in and are like, dude, that stuff's in all my stuff. So if you're buying supplements, you have about a 95% chance that you're consuming a toxic chemical, even though it's purported to be a health food. And keep in mind, 85% of the supplements on the market today are synthetic versions sold by pharmaceutical companies. So 85% of the entire supplement market is big pharma.
Right. I've been working with Dr. Joel Wallach the last 9 years, and he had the same problem. He is a naturopathic physician, but back 30 years ago, and 20 to 30 years ago, he was working with patients. He had clinics actually from Washington all the way down to California. So we'd drive down I-5 and go to a different clinic and meet with people and work up and down the Western Seaboard, and he was getting great results because of all of the his research that went into understanding that we're minerally deficient. And so he was using another company, and all of a sudden people stopped getting results. And he looked into it and he analyzed the supplements and found out the company that he was working with decided to dilute their product to make a bigger profit. And he was so upset. He's obviously stopped telling his patients to use those, but he just didn't know what to do because he couldn't find any the quality that he wanted to get the trace minerals and all the 90 essential nutrients for his patients. And then his family begged him to start their own companies. He said, I want to be helping people. I don't want to be, building a company or running a supplement company. And so his family begged him, okay, we'll run the company. You keep working with people. And so that's over 22 years they've been doing that. But that's the same story is like companies will keep changing their supplements. And also with Kristen Bowen, who has the magnesium soak that I love, she was getting amazing results with it. And then the company overnight, she actually had like 200 people. She just kept telling people about it. And over 200 people that she became friends with were all using this magnesium soak. It's concentrated or undiluted magnesium from the Zextine C. And she reversed major health issues with it. And then out of nowhere, someone says, it's not working anymore. And then she grabs an old bottle and a new bottle, takes it to a lab. And sure enough, the company started diluting it hugely to increase their profits.
This happens all the time. And just so people are listening, it's not easy to step into the supplement business, I could see, because I only did small batches for my coaching students. Like now that things are expanding and the supplement thing's growing, it's very difficult to compete because my raw material costs are through the roof.
Sure.
But I build this stuff for my body and my coaching clients. Like I build this stuff for me. I want it to frickin' be the best, the top of the pyramid. That's what I want. And every time we build it, I go to the formulator and I'm like, look, I want to be the best. Well, if I was to sell my greens at regular retail value, it'd be like $117 to $127 a jar. Most people can't afford that. So I can't really compete on the marketing because I don't have this huge marketing budget because I'm not making an extra $60 a can or $50 a can on people on top of what I sell it for, so it's just numbers at that point. So if I ever sell my company, probably don't buy the products anymore because it's gonna, So, but we're not going to do that. I'm going to put it in the bylaws. So we're family owned and it'll be probably employee owned. I'll probably turn it over to the employees and there'll be bylaws so the formulas have to stay the way they are. They will never change, and that kind of stuff. So that after I'm dead and gone, it'll still perpetuate and at least it'll be, because I have a lot of people that they have to have my stuff. Once they get on it, they're progressing. They do not want to get off of it. So they get on auto ship and they stay consistent with it.
It has been such a pleasure having you on the show, Tim. I know you've got to go. Thank you so much. Do you have any final words that you'd like to say to our listeners to wrap up today's interview?
Yeah, I do. And what I always like to end these talks with a challenge. And I would like you to challenge yourself to start putting yourself first. 100%. Loving self. You have got to be first. I see this with men, and I see it with so many women, especially young mothers, mothers in general. They do everything for everybody. I mean, taking care of the kids and washing the clothes and making the food and cleaning the house and, trying to romantic life with the husband and, taking care of people and taking care of they put themselves last. They put their health last. And then eventually a wheel falls off and then they find themselves in the hospital or with a nervous breakdown. They're on anxiety medications, depression medications, and they're not happy and they're not feeling good. Well, the reality is that you have to put yourself first if you truly love your children. You have to. Because they're watching you and monkey see, monkey do. Literally, do you want your children to follow your footsteps and be worn out and worn down and sick and tired and overweight and all these problems that people have today? No. So like I tell my people, or my people ask me like, what's more important, like you or your kids? I'm like, I'm more important. And people think that I'm a jerk by saying that. And I say, let me finish. If somebody shoots our way, I'm going to jump in front of my kids and take the bullet. Obviously, I love them unconditionally, but I put myself first because I want my children to put themselves first, and I'm going to lead by example. And I can tell you in my own life, it works. You lead by example, and what you're doing by leading by example is giving other people permission. Not that they will do it, but you give them permission and inspiration to do it for themselves. That's all you can do. You can't get people to do anything. I mean, you've probably experienced this. It's kind of hard. It's like pushing a rope or trying to herd cats. Like look at your husband. When he finally made the decision is when he changed. Not when you wanted him to, when he wanted to. And the best way to do it, change yourself. That's how you change your world, period.
I love it. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure having you on. You should definitely come back. I'd love to have you on and continue sharing and teaching. I love your mission and the work that you're doing to help people to live happier, more vital lives. It's wonderful. Thanks, Tim. And
thank you so much. And yeah, I'd love to come back. We could go deep on whatever you want. Also on my website, there's my podcast is there too, or people can find me on the Health Hero Show. That's my podcast, and I go deep on some stuff like proper food combining and things like that.
Absolutely, and the links to everything that Tim James does is going to be in the show notes of today's podcast at learntruehealth.com. Thank you so much, Tim. I hope you enjoyed today's interview with Tim James. Wasn't his story amazing? I love it. I feel like all men should hear it. I mean, women too, like not excluding anyone, but men need to hear his journey, because I think a lot of us, I think we can kind of stop and go, what symptoms have I been sweeping under the rug? What symptoms have I been writing off? I have friends who take Advil every day because they have aches and pains. And they just keep going. And like Tim said, if you're sick, but you have all these symptoms, but it doesn't stop you. It doesn't stop you from doing your daily tasks. Then it's really easy to keep ignoring or keep self-medicating. That down the road is going to lead to bigger problems. My mom died when she was 55. I was 21 years old. My mom died when she was 55, and she was the epitome of health. She was the healthiest person we knew. She exercised 7 days a week. She ate incredibly clean. She took supplements, and she didn't manage her stress levels. And she ignored certain symptoms, and she died of cancer. My dad died of heart disease. These are diseases that, when you listen to enough episodes, you gather that there are many diseases we're dying of that are lifestyle diseases that are caused by our choices. And I can't get in a time machine and bring my parents back, but I can show you this information, and maybe we can share this information with your family members, with your friends, with your loved ones. Maybe we can save some of the loved ones in our life. Maybe you can help someone in your life to stop ignoring some of the health symptoms they have and do some simple changes to their diet or their lifestyle to help their body correct itself. We can extend the quality of our life. We can put years on our life by changing our diet, by changing certain health habits. And this is what we explore in this podcast. So keep listening. If you're a new listener, subscribe. Please give us 5-star rating and review. That helps our show get to more people. And then please go back and listen to past episodes. The most current episodes are on iTunes, but we're also on Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, all those, Google Podcast, which is an app now. We're on all those. And you can also go to learntruehealth.com, and all the episodes are on learntruehealth.com. The most recent episodes, the most recent 100 or so, have been transcribed. So you can even just read the transcripts, and you can use the search function on the website to find episodes about specific illnesses or correcting certain things, certain topics. Please check out Tim James's website, chemicalfreebody.com, and use the coupon code LTH. I invite you to try his green drink. I absolutely love it, and I'm very picky. It is organic. He sources the highest quality supplements. Highest quality ingredients, I should say, and it is gluten-free. I had to make sure of that myself. So chemicalfreebody.com, coupon code LTH. Come join the Learn True Health Facebook group. It's free. a great resource, great community there. Go to learntrohealth.com and check out all the resources there. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. You can reach out to me on Facebook, or you can reach out to me through email, ashley@learntrohealth.com. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for being a listener. Thank you so much for sharing this podcast with those you care about. If you have any suggestions for future topics, or if you are grasping at straws with your own health, I'm also a health coach, a certified health coach, and I've been working with people for 9 years. And I'd love to help you as well. You can go to learntrohealth.com, and in the menu, there's a section for working with me. And you can also go to learntrohealth.com/chat and fill out the form for a free consultation to see if we'd be great working together. Excellent. Thank you so much for being a listener, and I can't wait to meet you either in Facebook or through a phone call or an email. I'd love for you to reach out, and just know that you're not alone. We're all in this together. Have yourself a fantastic rest of your day.